everyone, and welcome back to my mini-series on the horror subgenres. Today we're going to be talking about the action horror subgenre. Now, have you ever imagined yourself in a zombie apocalypse? I bet you imagine yourself running away from the zombie horde with a Kickass theme tune playing in the background as you kill everything in your path. You might be sauntering away from the city as it blows up behind you, your hair is perfect, you're not even sweating even though there's a fireball behind you. I would definitely be the first person to die. I'd be dead in the first 5 minutes. I'd be like that token death at the beginning just to sort of make sure everyone knows that it's serious. It'd be mediocre, everyone forgets about it, and then it would go on to the protagonist and the main characters. It wouldn't be pretty. But as my inevitable death happens in the background, it doesn't take away from the fact that some of you out there have survived the impending doom of the apocalypse and you need a theme tune to play in the background while you're saving the world. Now, the action horror subgenre combines kind of evil with this supernatural fantasy effect. There's always lots of gore, there's sometimes demons, but a lot of the time, there's zombies. We're going to have lots of chase scenes, we're going to have some epic battle fights, and we're going to have a main protagonist who is going to endure all and overcome that fatal threat. Films that you might recognise that are actually part of the action horror subgenre would be things like World War Z, Dawn of the Dead, Zombieland, but that kind of also touches on the comedy horror subgenre. From Dusk Till Dawn also hints on that. But the main film that I focused on and took a lot of inspiration from was 28 Days Later. When I was creating this track, I just knew that we needed warping synths, we needed a big strong sound, we needed a good percussive drum beat, and we needed some melodic hooks to sort of mix in there as well so that people could sort of rock out to this tune. Now, it didn't need to be guitar based, but I kind of wanted it to be. There's always a good, strong guitar in an action horror soundtrack, so I just wanted to recreate that sound, especially seeming as I was basing this off the 28 Days Later soundtrack. In this track, it has that bigger scale, faster paced movement, which some of the other tracks that I've created don't have. They couldn't be too similar to each other, so we've got that atmospheric ambience in our psychological haunting track, but this one wasn't about that. I needed some variety in this repertoire that I've been creating. It's something to consider. Now, of course, you're not going to go and write for a style that isn't your style, but having a good variety in your soundtracks just means that you have a greater application to this wide range of media that's out there. It's also really interesting just to push yourself into a new type of style, because you never know, you might find the style that you're born to write for. I really wanted a punch. I wanted a beat that people could just strut to down the street as they're killing zombies left, right and centre. Think of the final battle scene in Dawn of the Dead. There's this really strong percussive drum beat going on in the background, which just keeps on amping up the suspense. While the strings sort of play over the top, you've still got this solid bass line to kind of keep you going with that scene. If you've seen Zombieland, Tallahassee has this scene where he's against all of the zombies. And if you listen carefully, there's this chugging guitar persisting behind everything that's going on. It's this kind of distorted bass line of chords coming from the guitar that just keeps you moving along with what's happening on the screen. It's all about maintaining that need for that character to survive what they're going through, meaning that the audience is going to have a stronger emotional connection to that character. If there's this awesome song playing in the background while they try and save the world, no one's going to want them to die. The music is just continuously hyping them up to succeed, making you root for them to become the hero. And I mean, come on, who doesn't want a hero? Now, the one thing that I wanted in this track was a live guitar playing. I didn't just want the MIDI instruments, and in the next video I'm going to be showing you how important live instrumentation can be to the final sound of your piece. It is so essential to the quality of your piece, but I'm going to go over that in another video so that we have more time to go over it in detail. Now, another thing that an action horror film concentrates on is the build. This isn't really like our psychological haunting, there's ghosts, there's this very slow build, there's very slow suspense. We needed to hit them. This isn't like our psychological haunting subgenre with the ghosts and the very slow build and the slow suspense to a jump scare. we needed to hit them with sound very quickly. You can actually hear quite a quick rise in this piece to where the guitar and the drum beat starts, but originally that was a lot longer. It sounds so much better to have that shorter rise and then to hit them with that sound where they're then connected to what's going on. It sounds so much better to have that shorter rise into that main section of my piece so that people are just invested more quickly into what's going to happen next if it was played in the background of a film. I didn't want the slow warping atmosphere in this piece. I wanted epic. I wanted people to almost sing along with those guitar hooks and those chords, and I think I've achieved that. A lot of the time in an action horror track, you have more of an allowance for the amount of sound that you can build. When I was talking about the psychological haunting track, you've got to keep it quite mellow sometimes. You've got to keep it quite subtle. Of course, there are always exceptions to what I say, but a lot of the time you'll hear that it's a very minimal approach leading up to a jump scare with some risers, and then it falls back down to a more minimal approach so that those jump scares are more significant. However, in an action horror track, a lot of the time, the music can be a front. Even though we know that the track isn't really playing while they're killing all the zombies, touching more on the non-diegetic sounds, it still makes us root for them to win. Rather than keeping to those mellow textural sounds, you can really push your music to the front. Always remember the effect that you're trying to put on your audience. Whether it's them rooting for the hero or rooting for the villain, it doesn't matter. You still need to think about the effect that you're going to be creating. And in the action horror subgenre, the soundtrack can greatly influence the outcome. In my next video about the action horror subgenre, I'm going to be taking you over how I recorded the live guitar. I'm going to be taking you over why we want to be using live instrumentation as much as possible and how I record my instruments on the kind of random pieces of equipment that I've collected on my student budget. I really hope that's helped explain what the action horror subgenre is, but as always, any questions, do pop them in the comments below and I'll answer as soon as possible. Till the next time guys, bye!